They were tasked to oversee humanity, but their choices led to our corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pantheon mythology, and today we're exploring the question, who are the fallen angels who corrupted humanity? If you too want to corrupt humanity, check out Pantheon Apparel, our clothing brand inspired by myths from around the world. We ship worldwide and are rated excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description. Right, here we go. The Book of Enoch is one of the most fascinating and controversial ancient texts. It offers dramatic expansion on the mysteries of the Bible, diving into stories that most people have only glimpsed in passing. Though it's not part of the official canon for most major religions, this ancient Jewish work, written around 300 BCE, has shaped theological thought and mythology in ways that still echo today. At the heart of the Book of Enoch lies an extraordinary tale. It takes the brief, cryptic mentions in Genesis about the sons of God, who took human wives and fathered the Nephilim, those mysterious giants or heroes of old, and builds an epic story around them. Genesis leaves us with more questions than answers, but Enoch dives in, connecting the dots and weaving a tale of rebellion and cosmic consequences. The Watchers were a group of angels tasked with one job: observe humanity. They weren't meant to guide, protect, or intervene, just to watch. Their name reflects this role, and they were often referred to as the Sons of God or Sons of Heaven. These titles hint at their divine origins, but also their place as intermediaries between the celestial and the earthly. They were meant to keep their distance, silently witnessing humanity's growth and struggles. But here's the thing. Being so close to humanity without participating wasn't easy. The Watchers saw it all, the joys, the hardships, the beauty of human existence. Over time, they began to feel something they were never supposed to: temptation. These angels, created to represent order, started to question their role. Why should they remain detached? Why couldn't they take part in the life they had been sent to oversee? The Watchers' story is fascinating because it's not just about rebellion. It's about their very human-like struggle with desire and duty. They were powerful, celestial beings, but their connection to humanity became their undoing. They longed for the freedom to feel, to act, to indulge in the world they observed from afar. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It grew over time, a slow shift from duty to defiance. They crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed, and their actions would change not only their fate, but the fate of humanity itself. What started as silent observation turned into direct interference, with consequences that would ripple through history. It all began with temptation towards the allure of mortal women. From their heavenly vantage point, the Watchers saw beauty unlike anything they had ever known. These women were graceful, compelling, and deeply human. Their lives, their joys, their struggles awakened desires the Watchers had no business feeling. What started as admiration turned into longing, and longing grew into obsession. At the center of this growing tension was their leader, Samyaza. He recognized the danger of their thoughts, cautioning his fellow Watchers against the path they were considering. Samyaza understood the weight of their actions. Breaking their vows wouldn't just bring punishment upon themselves, it would create consequences far beyond their control. Yet, even as he hesitated, the others pushed forwards. Their determination wore him down, and together they swore a binding oath. If one of them fell, they would all fall together. This pact of shared rebellion sealed their fate. With their decision made, the Watchers descended to Earth. They cast aside their roles as observers and became participants in the world they were only meant to witness. Taking human women as their wives, they defied the laws that governed their existence. This act alone was enough to mark their fall. But their betrayal didn't stop with their unions. By descending into the mortal world, they set off a chain of events that would forever alter humanity. They brought with them secrets that were never meant to be shared, knowledge that blurred the line between divine power and mortal ambition. This knowledge wasn't simply forbidden. It was a force that could upend everything. The Watchers didn't just share secrets. They gave humanity the power to reshape the world. The teachings they imparted weren't just a breach of rules. They were a direct disruption of the natural order. The Watchers began with sorcery, teaching humans how to control the forces of nature itself. For the first time, people could manipulate the elements: wind, water, and earth. What seemed like a gift turned into something far darker. Humanity was handed the power to change reality, but without the wisdom to understand its dangers. As people grew more knowledgeable, they started to experiment with these new abilities, and soon they were playing with fire. Forces they couldn't control. Azazel's influence, however, was perhaps the most far-reaching. He didn't simply show humans how to craft weapons, he taught them how to wage war. Before this, humanity had been relatively peaceful, but once these teachings spread, violence became an inevitable part of life. The creation of weapons like swords, knives, and shields marked the beginning of conflict as a way of life. What started as a tool for protection quickly turned into a means of domination and conquest. War was no longer an option. It became an integral part of human existence. Azazel's teachings didn't end with warfare. He also introduced the concept of vanity. He showed humanity how to use cosmetics and adornments, shifting the focus from the inner world to the external. People started to place more importance on appearance, on material possessions, on status, losing sight of what mattered most. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It became about how you looked, what you wore, and how others saw you. Humanity's focus shifted from a spiritual growth to the pursuit of material wealth and shallow beauty. And then, of course, came astrology. The Watchers shared the secrets of the stars, the knowledge of how to read the heavens and predict the future. What had once been reserved for higher beings was now in human hands. But instead of using his knowledge to deepen their understanding of the world, humanity began using it to control it. The stars were no longer a tool for enlightenment. They became a way to manipulate fate. People sought to control their futures, to bend the world to their will, rather than respecting the natural flow of life. These teachings, the power to manipulate nature, the introduction of weapons, vanity, and the ability to control fate, weren't just about giving humanity power. They were about taking away humanity's innocence, turning people into beings driven by their desires rather than their purpose. The Watchers, in trying to teach, instead corrupted humanity. What they gave wasn't wisdom, but a catalyst for self-destruction. And at the heart of it all was Azazel, whose teachings laid the groundwork for the chaos and greed that would follow. The Nephilim were giants born from forbidden unions between Watchers and human women. These offspring weren't just remarkable because of their size, they were overwhelming in every sense. Imagine creatures that towered above men, capable of doing far more damage than anyone could anticipate. They were the first generation of beings to directly challenge the boundaries of the natural order, and their existence was a reflection of the chaos that followed the Watchers' rebellion. Their size alone made them a terrifying presence, but it wasn't just about their physicality. The Nephilim carried with them a violent nature, one that was directly tied to the corruption that their parents, the Watchers, had introduced. These giants weren't content with simply existing. They demanded everything around them. They devoured resources on a scale that drained the earth, consuming far more than they needed. Crops, animals, and entire ecosystems couldn't sustain them. And as they fed on the land, they left nothing but destruction in their wake. Nephilim weren't just a threat to humanity, they fought each other too. Their internal battles were fierce and constant. It wasn't enough for them just to fight for dominance. They tore each other apart, bringing more devastation to the world. As they waged war against their own kind, the very foundations of society began to crumble, and humanity was caught in the middle of this ancient conflict. What made the Nephilim even more dangerous wasn't just their size or their bloodthirst. It was the fact that they were the physical manifestation of the Watchers' rebellion. Every act of violence, every scrap of greed, every fight for dominance was a direct result of the choices made by their angelic parents. The Watchers had crossed the line, and in doing so, they created a race of beings who knew no boundaries, who acted only on impulse and instinct, spreading chaos wherever they went. The Nephilim's presence on Earth was more than just an abnormality, it was a turning point in history. Their existence marked the tipping point to where the world, once in balance, was thrown into turmoil. They were both a product and a catalyst of the destruction unleashed by the Watchers. As they wreaked havoc, the natural world began to show signs of strain. The Earth, already scarred by their unchecked greed, could no longer support both humanity and these powerful beings. Humanity, which had been struggling with its own battles for survival, now had to contend with the immense power of the Nephilim. And it wasn't just about the Nephilim's physical impact. Their presence distorted human priorities. As humans watched these giants grow stronger and more domineering, they too began to stray from their original path. The Nephilim weren't just giant in size. They were giants in their influence over human behavior. The more they consumed, the more humanity followed suit. The desire for power, for dominance, became contagious. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about controlling others, taking what wasn't theirs and feeding their own insatiable needs. This reflected the very essence of the Watchers' corruption. They taught humanity to seek and take without understanding the consequences. The world was spiraling further into chaos, and soon the full weight of these actions would become undeniable. What the Watchers had set in motion was no longer something that could be stopped by mere mortal means. The Nephilim, the product of forbidden union and teachings, were now an unstoppable force, pushing the world towards destruction. The chaos on Earth hadn't gone unnoticed, and it was clear something had to be done to restore order. That's where the archangels stepped in. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel were chosen to deal with the aftermath, each having their own part to play in cleaning up the mess the Watchers had left behind. First up, we have Michael, the warrior archangel. His job was to confront Samyaza, the leader of the Watchers, and ensure that he faced the consequences of his rebellion. Michael wasn't just about bringing punishment. He was about restoring balance. He held the Watchers accountable for what they'd done, making sure their defiance didn't go unchallenged. Gabriel had his own tough task, dealing with the Nephilim. These giants, born from the unions of the Watchers and human women, had become a source of destruction. Gabriel stirred up conflict among them, which led to their mutual downfall. With the Nephilim gone, humanity was freed from their violent influence, and the world could begin to heal. Then there was Raphael, whose focus was on Azazel. Azazel's teachings to humanity, especially about war and vanity, had played a massive role in the corruption of the world. Raphael was sent to bind Azazel in darkness, locking him away so that he could no longer lead humanity astray. Azazel would be imprisoned, unable to influence the world he had helped to ruin. Lastly, Uriel took on the difficult task of punishing the Watchers themselves. These angels had broken their vows and betrayed their roles, and their punishment had to reflect that. Uriel was sent to imprison the Watchers beneath the earth, where they would remain cut off from the world they once observed for 70 generations. This was no light punishment. It was a way of isolating them from everything they had once known. But even this wasn't enough to undo the damage. The world had become corrupted to its core. Humanity itself had been infected by the influence of the Watchers, and the earth could no longer support the imbalance they had caused. So, the earth needed a reset, a way to cleanse itself from the devastation the Watchers had left in their wake. That's where the Great Flood came in. The flood wasn't just about punishing the Watchers for their monstrous offspring. It was about cleansing the earth. It wiped away the corruption, the violence, the greed, and everything else that had been tainted by the Watchers' actions. When the waters receded and the earth began to recover, the world was different. The corruption was gone, and humanity, though still flawed, had the chance to rebuild. And so, what was the fate of the fallen angels? Enoch, a righteous man chosen by God, became the unlikely messenger of the Watchers' doom. His task was to confront these fallen angels and deliver their sentence, a fate they could never escape. Once mighty and revered, the Watchers were now consumed by fear and regret. They pleaded with Enoch, begging him to intercede on their behalf, desperate to undo what they had set in motion. But their betrayal had left a scar too deep to heal, and forgiveness was out of reach. Enoch's visions laid bare the punishment that awaited them. The Watchers were cast into a bleak abyss, a place of unending darkness and torment. Uriel, the archangel tasked with their imprisonment, described it as a prison built to reflect the gravity of their actions. This wasn't a temporary exile. It was a punishment designed to strip them of the purpose they once held and to leave them in a void they could never escape. Their sentence wasn't just about isolation. Bound beneath the earth for 70 generations, the Watchers were left to await final judgment that would seal their fate for eternity. The significance of this waiting period wasn't lost. It was a long, harrowing countdown, a reminder of the irreversible consequences of their rebellion. The abyss became their home, a stark reflection of the chaos they had unleashed on the world. Enoch, burdened with his visions, saw the full weight of their punishment. The Watchers were no longer the celestial guardians they had once been. Stripped of their power and abandoned in the darkness, they became symbols of their own downfall, a warning to others about the cost of stepping beyond the boundaries set for them. The story of the Watchers isn't just a tale of rebellion. It's a reflection of timeless human struggles. It delves into the consequences of crossing forbidden boundaries, the cost of betrayal, and the allure of knowledge we're not ready to handle. The Watchers' choice to share forbidden secrets wasn't just about defying orders. It shattered the delicate balance between divine guidance and human free will. When they brought knowledge like sorcery, weaponry, and astrology to humanity, it wasn't just a gift. It was a burden. These teachings fueled humanity's greed, violence, and obsession with power. In doing so, the Watchers became a mirror, exposing the darker sides of human nature. Their story asks a pointed question. Who's more to blame, the ones who gave the knowledge or the ones who used it to wreak havoc? The flood ties their narrative to a larger moral reset. It wasn't just a punishment for the Nephilim or the Watchers. It was a reckoning for the world that had embraced the chaos they unleashed. The scale of destruction highlights just how far things had spiraled out of control, with the flood acting as both a devastating end and a new beginning, a clean slate for humanity to try again. What's fascinating is how the Watchers' legacy echoes through other stories. In some interpretations, their rebellion is seen as a precursor to figures like Satan, a being who also defied divine authority. The idea of powerful beings falling from grace resonates across cultures, from Greek titans to fallen gods in other mythologies. It's a theme that taps into universal fears about ambition, hubris, and the consequences of pushing too far. At its heart, the story of the Watchers isn't just about ancient angels and forbidden unions, it's a cautionary tale. It reminds us of the ripple effects of defiance, how a single act can spiral into widespread destruction. It also challenges us to reflect on our own desires for power and control, and whether we're prepared to handle the consequences of getting what we want.